Hey up! Well, hey, welcome back. 3 degrees C. Hey! Out and about with Andy and Colin behind me. And hoping to dodge the frost and ice today, but a very typical late November day. In fact, December's just around the corner. Now then, I'm just going to talk about these Aoocci TFTs for about a minute, so if you don't want to hear about them again, because I know there's no shortage of they keep giving me an hard time just because I try and earn a little bob or two to keep things ticking over. But anyway, if you want one of these Aoocci TFTs with Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, video recording front and rear, GPS information, tyre pressure monitoring, all of that, if you want one of these, currently with every Aoocci TFT unit you're going to get a free SD card, with all of them, the C5 Pro, C6 Pro and C9 Max currently. And if you buy one through the affiliate link down in the description below, you'll still get a whopping great 22% off courtesy of me. So there we go. Aye, so that's me little bit of product pushing out of the way. So, what about old KTM, eh? Dear oh Lord, that's not good. I suppose many would say the signs have been there for some considerable time, and that may or may not be the case depending upon how you look at it. But I think overall it's quite a worrying state of affairs that a major marque like KTM having to go into what they're calling self-administration, which gives them 90 days, 3 months just about, to find a way of restructuring their finances. Of course, it's the parent company, Pira Group, headed up by CEO Jan Pira, and then of course another shareholder is Bajaj in India, who of course make the Triumph 400s. So it'll be interesting to see. And of course the other factor is, being as I'm here on my fantastic CF Moto 800 MT, what implications are there for the KTM engine CF Moto range? Well, it's the CF Moto KTM thing's a collaboration. It's no more than that really. And CF Moto make the engines for a handful of the KTM models, the 790s, the cheaper ones. So I don't see any implications for CF Moto themselves. Whether CF Moto, who I'm sure have an awful lot of financial resources at their disposal, whether they may be tempted to help out with some of the financial restructuring remains to be seen. Not sure that it's in their interests to do that more broadly. But of course KTM, because they bought out Husqvarna and Gas and MV Agusta, and of course you can't help but think about the all the people that work in that part of the industry that potentially might find their jobs in jeopardy. Very unfortunate state of affairs, and it's a shame. I know there's nothing like a KTM for splitting opinion, but I love them. I've had two. I mean, one gave me a fair amount of grief and one gave me no problems at all. I had a 1290 Super Adventure, an earlier one, 2017, and I had a new 890 Adventure. And the Super Adventure gave me a fair bit of grief with the electronics, but the 890 Adventure gave me no problems whatsoever. And I absolutely love the look of the KTMs. They're not for everybody, but I just love that cutting edge design and all that there orange. Yeah, that works for me every time. Love it. I'd have one tomorrow. Hey, can we pick one up cheap? I ask myself. But what will the after sales support be like if they can't resolve the financial situation? I mean, that's the question, isn't it? That is the question. But yeah, I mean, I love them. I know a lot of people got no time for KTMs whatsoever, but I just love what they represent, what they do, and it's just a shame that because there is a legacy issue, unfairly and disproportionately fueled by internet chatter, I would have to say, but there is this legacy issue of the reliability of some of the electronics and what have you, but then some people have them for protracted periods of time and put a lot of miles on them and never have a problem. But you don't hear you don't tend to hear from those people, do you? And the whole, to my mind, grossly exaggerated chocolate camshaft saga won't have helped. And I suppose KTM's apparently less than enthusiastic response to that problem won't have helped. But I feel sure myself that the amount of negative briefing that went on the forums and on YouTube and what have you concerning the 790 camshaft issue won't have helped an already difficult situation for KTM. And don't get me wrong, if you're one of those unfortunate people that's had that problem and not had a particularly good response from the dealership or from KTM themselves, I completely understand why you know, KTM might be well and truly off your Christmas card list. But the figures that are available for us to view at the moment suggest that it's a very, very small proportion, very small proportion of people with those bikes, with those engines, that have actually had a problem. But it's like with anything else newsworthy, the negative stuff always gets a higher profile than the positive stuff, which is a great shame. And here we are, stuck behind a tractor and trailer. Oh. So yeah, all you know, I mean, I just hope they continue. I just think that a motorcycle market without KTM there somewhere, big shame. I think if it were me, I'd be binning off all the peripheral stuff flog off the MV Agusta, flog off Husqvarna, flog off Gas, stick to KTM, stick to the models that have always been successful. I'm thinking of the Dukes and the Super Dukes and the Adventures and the Super Adventures. I mean, I absolutely love the look of that of the new 1390 Super Adventure. Hey, and I can feel people reaching for the keypads now to tell me how bloody horrible they look. Well, each to their own. I think they look fabulous, and the more orange the better, as far as I'm concerned. But I love the look of the new 1390 Super Adventure, and I do also absolutely love the look of the new 1390 Super Duke GT. Not so bothered about the Super Duke R, which is a mental machine. But the Super Duke GT, I think that looks fabulous. But you know, 20 grand bike, 20 grand bike. And that thing KTM did, still do, of packing all the tech in and letting you have it for about a month and then switching it all off until you paid a bit more money to get it reactivated. I don't think that will have helped either. A bit of a strategic faux pas at a corporate level to do that. Somebody must have sat down somewhere, or a group of people must have sat down somewhere and thought, I know, this is what we'll do, and not actually thought about how it looks and feels more broadly when people are forking out 15-20 grand for a bike. But anyway, enough of that. It's been covered aplenty by other YouTube channels, covered aplenty, and they've got 90 days to sort themselves out, or for somebody to sort them out. And whatever the solution which is arrived at the end of the day, I just hope it enables KTM to carry on producing exciting, cutting-edge bikes, and of which I would happily have one if only I could afford it. Because if I chopped in all 4 of my bikes, I'd still be several £1,000s off being able to afford something like a new Super Adventure or a new Super Duke GT. So it's out of the question for me. But of course, folk don't have the amount of brass that at one time they did. People are really feeling the pinch, ordinary people. And it's regarded broadly as being a cost of living crisis, an economic crisis. But the reality is, apparently, there is more money circulating throughout the world, and particularly throughout the Western world, than ever before. And yet 80-90% of the population find themselves in severely constrained, straitened economic times. But there's more money than ever, per capita, more money floating about. So how do you explain that then? I know how I explain it. Funny, isn't it? If you haven't seen a channel, it's called Gary's Economics, a fella called Gary Stevenson, who's from a very, very working class background in, I think, the East End of London. But he just happened to be a mathematical genius, and by various means ended up at the LSE, London School of Economics, and went on to become one of the most successful traders on the planet. Made a fortune, but he hadn't forgotten his roots, and well worth watching him explaining where all this here brass that none of us have anymore, but is still floating about out there, where it's all gone. And he explains in great detail what happened during lockdown, when the Bank of England and other central banks, Federal Reserve in America, European Central Bank, etc., and us, Bank of England, just printed a load of money. Well, they don't literally print it, do they? They just create a number on a computer. Quantitative easing. But what he explains is that, look, when you factor everything in, you know, the cost of furlough and all the other support mechanisms that were put in place, every adult in the United Kingdom should have something like £14,000. Should have got £14,000, and that's after you take, you know, all the other stuff out of the equation. So what I want to know is, pal, where's my 14 grand? And I bet you'd like to know where your 14 grand is as well, because I ain't got it. I never got it, and I'd quite like it, please, because we're actually all still paying for it. So can I have my 14 grand, please? Aye, not going to happen, is it? So yeah, interesting stuff, that. And the other thing, I mean, I've mentioned this before, but it absolutely, pardon the expression, bloody boils my piss every time I think about it. We're out in this beautiful countryside in the Aoocci Dales here, and I'm sorry we're not on the really picturesque back roads, but it's that cold. Some of the back roads are going to be a little bit treacherous, so we're sticking to the main routes. But we're out here in this beautiful Aoocci Dales countryside, and of course part of the landscape alongside the valleys and the beautiful hills and the woodland and all the rest of it, of course, is the lakes, reservoirs and rivers, and they're all full of shit. Not to put it too conservatively, they're all full of human waste, particularly since the event which was named Storm Bert the other week, which dumped a load of snow, and then it rained heavily. So you'll have seen in the news, I'm sure, all the flooding. There was some flooding in West Yorkshire, our neck of the woods. Some severe flooding in Wales and other places, and people having a terrible torrid time of it. Only a couple of years after the last time it happened. But the other consequence of that is, of course, that the drainage and sewerage infrastructure cannot cope, because it's not been invested in, and as a result the excess sewage is just pumped into our beautiful rivers, waterways, lakes, what have you, and coasts, of course. And I think it's absolutely unforgivable. And of course the reason that it's happened is because diddly squat money's been put in to doing what should have been blindingly obvious, and that's upgrading the systems to account for an ever-increasing population and for very obviously changing weather patterns. But no, the 74 billion pounds, the 74 billion pounds that has been taken from the water industry since it was privatised in the late 80s has gone elsewhere. It certainly hasn't gone into repairing the or upgrading rather the sewerage and supply systems, and with even half of that amount of money they could have done a grand job. They could have replaced, renewed, upgraded everything. But instead, of course, it all went to pay massive dividends to foreign shareholders. So many of our utilities are just owned by foreign rather. You would call them hedge funds, asset management funds, equity companies, things of that nature. And of course, yeah, the money which otherwise could have been invested in updating everything and making sure that our beautiful rivers, coasts and lakes stayed crystal clear and environmentally friendly, and enable wildlife, water life to thrive. That could have been done, but no. Instead, the scumbags wanted to line their own pockets, didn't they? And the same with the executive boards that run these outfits, paying themselves massive bonuses for failure. Excuse me. It absolutely gets my goat that this has been allowed to happen, because when it were all sold off in the late 80s, our money, I was a taxpayer back then. I am old enough to have been a taxpayer back in the 80s. That money, our money, was used to ensure that all the state-owned water companies were debt-free when they were sold off. So there were a boatload of our money, taxpayers' money, used to clear all the debt and sell them off cheap and without any debt. And now they've all taken on massive amounts of debt, borrowed billions and billions of pounds, not invested any of it, kept it for themselves, lined the pockets with it, and so we're left with a knackered sewerage system, shit-filled rivers, lakes and coastlines, and CEOs paying themselves obscene bonuses for repeated failure and, in a lot of cases, law breaking, and it's criminal. As far as I'm concerned, they should those that have primarily been responsible for this should be in bloody prison. And this is, and please don't accuse me of getting political, this is just a matter of historical fact. I don't think anybody denies. Well, you can't deny it. It's all a matter of record, so it can't be denied. But I just think, what an obscene state of affairs. And now they've suddenly decided, oh yeah, we'll need to do a load of work, and by the way, dear bill payer, dear water user, you're going to have to pay for it. Yeah. And of course Thames Water, that seems to have been the one that's in the worst state of affairs. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, at one point that were owned by an Australian capital venture company called Macquarie, and they just ran it into the ground, milked it for every penny, ran it into the ground, and then just flogged it off, disappeared into the sunset. Nice. So yeah, it falls to the bill payers. Bloody wonderful. Oh, I think we're going to go here for a brew. I hope I haven't sent you to sleep with that little rant, but I do feel really, really strongly about it.